Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we're called to a rural property where the owner had been attacked by a very active bald-faced hornet nest while doing some landscaping on the property. The nest had been built on an old cement land marker that was covered in vines, so the nest was very well camouflaged and the owner didn't see it until almost directly in front of it. The wasps attacked when they were startled by the loud noise and vibration from the lawnmower. We'll show you how we collect the adult wasps for Venom Immunotherapy, or VIT, and then how we relocate the brood comb into captivity, where we set it up in a special incubation habitat to allow the remaining pupae in the nest to hatch out so they can be collected later for Venom Immunotherapy. Despite their common name, bald-faced hornets are not actually true hornets at all. They're a beneficial native species of Aerial Yellowjacket called Dolichovespula maculata. We'll show you what our field lab looks like in the barn, where we have our incubation habitat set up for several species. As you see here, there's southern yellowjackets in this image, alongside some bald-faced hornets. Throughout the wasp season, as we do removals for clients, we'll collect all the adult wasps and whatever species we're dealing with, and we'll always attempt to take the brood comb and incubate them back in the lab in captivity. Let's take you back now to September 2nd, 2024, and we'll walk you through the entire job. If you enjoy the content on our channel, please do remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. Enjoy the show. September 2nd, 2024. Dolichovespula maculata nest. Bald-faced hornets. Connected to an old cement land marker and an old vine system here. So we'll get this one removed today. Plenty of active traffic. As we begin this removal, keep your eye on the nest opening, and you'll notice that they're very calm. They don't mind us being there as long as we don't jostle the nest or startle them or vibrate the nest. But as soon as we vibrate the vegetation around the nest right here, boom, all of a sudden the alarm pheromone went out and they came out to attack. And we do this on purpose, of course, because they have to come out for us to collect them. But it is dangerous if you are on a lawnmower situation where you stumble upon something like this, like the owner did in this property. You're going to get stung. You're going to get attacked because they are simply reacting defensively to what they consider a threat around their nest. So it's very important that you inspect your lawn and look for nests like this before you begin anything noisy that'll cause vibration. Weed whackers and lawnmowers and all sorts of different tools. You just have to be careful and really just pay attention before you begin the work. Same with ground nesting yellowjackets, same problem there. You can just stumble upon them if you don't inspect your lawn first. And the way you do a lawn inspection before you do landscaping is you wait until the sun is high in the sky. It's a very warm part of the day. There's sunshine on most of the lawn and the landscaping around you. During times like that, that's the best time to inspect, because that's when wasps get the most active, is in higher temperatures when the sun is directly on their nests or their nest openings, whether it's in the ground or on a tree or in shrubbery or whatever. So look for traffic, wasps coming and going to the same space over and over again. They may do it in very large numbers, or there may only be one or two visible at a time. But that's what you're looking for, is that traffic coming and going from a particular point and routinely doing that. If you see that, you have a nest. Go look carefully at that and deal with it before you do your landscaping. Here we're going to speed up the footage for you about 4x, if it's 4 times faster than actual speed, as we fill up these collection bottles. And what we're doing here is just collecting the foraging wasps. These are the female wasps who go out to hunt pest insects and bring them back to the nest to feed those pest insects to their larvae, because the larvae, the baby wasps, they require a tremendous amount of protein to get them into the pupation stage, which is what the wasps are trying to do. They're trying to pupate out as many adult wasps as they can to grow their colony. This is why they're so important to the local ecosystem. We need them to do that behavior, or all of our local pest insects will overpopulate. And it's the same with all wasps around the entire world. In every ecosystem, wasps do that job for us. They are absolutely crucial, beneficial insects. Here we go back to normal speed. Once the swarm, the initial attack swarm, has been collected in the container that we use connected to our vacuum system, this contains them alive, which is what we need because we're going to freeze them for venom immunotherapy. And to preserve their venom, we'll flash freeze them in CO2, frozen dry ice. But once that initial swarm is done, we have to jostle the nest some more, try to stir up another defensive reaction attack for the wasps that remain in the nest. There are still some around out in the environment foraging, and there's others that are hiding in the nest, and we just try to make them all come out so we can collect them, because we want to collect as many as we can before we attempt to break the nest open, just to keep the swarm down. This way everything's more efficient. It's also safer, both for the technician doing the removal and also for anybody who might be walking by, or kids rolling up on their bikes and curious people just showing up. It happens. So you got to be careful and really reduce as much of the swarm as you can as you go along. So we'll occasionally vibrate the nest, cause a defensive reaction, and then lay back, collect whatever comes out, wait for more foragers to zero back in, because by instinct, they will swirl around, but eventually they're going to go back to that nest, right to the hole they're used to going in to enter the nest. And as long as we hover around that hole with the vacuum extraction device, we'll get them either coming or going. So once the main swarm is collected and most of the foragers have been contained, we then move into removing the nest itself. And what you see here is a brood comb structure covered in paper that the wasps make out of wood fiber mixed with their saliva. They cover up their nest. So we're taking the entire thing, all the paper, all the brood comb. This is where the baby wasps live. There's eggs in these cells, larvae in these cells, and pupae. And the pupae are larvae that have woven a silk cap over their cell and begun the pupation process until they become adult wasps and hatch out of the nest. So what we do is we collect all of this in the field, and all of the paper has all the wasp pheromone all over it. So the more we can remove, the better. Because other wasps and wasps that are maybe still out in the field are attracted to the smell of the pheromone on the wasp paper. So you have to remove all the material you can. This just helps the client who's going to be working in this area, landscaping, from having to deal with a whole bunch more wasps. So once we have the nest contained, we put it in a cooler and leave it in the vehicle until we get it back to the barn lab. With the high temperatures in the summertime, especially inside vehicles, you have to be careful not to let the nest overheat because it can kill the larvae and the pupating wasps that are still inside the brood comb. So now that we have the nest down and the vast majority of the workers contained, the next step here is to leave the vacuum running where the nest hole used to be, and they will suck themselves up by exploring that hole.
see how they end up targeting that hole. It's because by instinct, they always look for that dark hole near where their nest was. So if you set up the vacuum hole right where the nest hole used to be, they will ultimately come down and explore it, and they will get collected. So you see them swarming around looking for that nest entrance. And ultimately they end up right in that vacuum hole. There's a nice collection here for Venom Immunotherapy. Good number of female workers. Very useful collection for biomedical use. So we're glad the client called this in. So we're just leaving the vacuum collection device where the nest used to be for a while, and we'll just collect the random foragers that are coming back looking for their nest.
What you see here, this type of follow-up, is really important. If you're going to do the job for the client and do it thoroughly and professionally, you have to put in the time. Once the nest is removed and most of your wasps are contained, you have to put in that time to collect the rest of the foragers that are out in the field, because there's possibly dozens or hundreds of them still out looking for pest insects to bring back to the nest or looking for nectar. So in order to collect all of these foragers, you simply just have to wait it out. If you're not willing to put in that time for the client, then you're not offering them a full removal.
Meanwhile, we're just going to pick up the paper bits that are laying around that will reduce the number that come back looking for that pheromone-covered paper. So we've got the nest contained, we've got the workers contained, we've got the queen contained with the nest. So this issue should be taken care of now. We'll take these back and we'll freeze them for Venom Immunotherapy, and the client can continue landscaping the corner of their property, which they had to stop doing when they ran into this nest. So now that we've collected all the adult flying wasps and we've collected the brood comb of the nest itself, which we can later on pupate out and incubate for Venom Immunotherapy collection, the final step is to just treat the area where the nest was with an essential oil mix, peppermint, clove, lemongrass, essential oils mixed with dish soap and water. Non-toxic, very effective at deterring wasps from coming back here. So you never need toxic poison ever to deal with wasps. All you have to do is take any type of sprayer, which you can pick up anywhere at the hardware or on Amazon, fill it with soap and water, and maybe throw in some essential oils like peppermint, lemongrass, clove oil, and saturate the area where the nest was. That's all it takes. It kills the wasps, it deters the wasps from coming back. There's no reason to poison the environment out in this beautiful countryside with insecticide that's toxic. So as you can see here, the last random forager cannot land in this space. And if it tries to land, it gets covered in oil and quickly perishes. This is how you deter them from coming back. They're looking for their pheromone. Their pheromone's now been covered by peppermint oil. These wasps will die off in the environment in a few days. No need to poison them. They'll die off and dissipate on their own. So we're preparing a habitat here to put this nest in. This is a Baldfaced Hornet nest we just removed from an old corner post out in the countryside for a client who owned that property. And we're going to move it into a habitat where we can incubate the pupae and then collect them later for Venom Immunotherapy after they hatch out. So we put a little honey in this container and a little water in the other side. We put some chicken wire over that, and then on top of that we're going to stack the comb. There's some yellow jackets buzzing around just from the environment around here. They're not part of anything we collected, but they're kind of very interested in the smell of wasps. So as you can see, this comb is still very active. Plenty of wasps on it still. And they're staying here inside the comb. Let's turn it over like it would be in the environment. These are all queen cells. There's a couple more. Some of the larva has fallen out, so we'll show you what that looks like. Make sure we can focus on that, but this is active Baldfaced Hornet larva. It could be worker larva, it could be queen larva, I'm not really sure at the moment. Didn't see which cells they fell out of, but that's what they look like. They're grubs, and they're always very active. So you can see them moving around quite a bit. These ultimately will pupate when they're a little older, and they'll weave a silk cap over their cell, like you see here on this nest. All these silk caps are larvae that had woven a silk cap over their cell because they're getting ready to pupate. Unfortunately, we can't save most of the larvae in this type of incubation environment, so we're looking mainly to save and incubate the pupae, which will hatch out in a couple of weeks, and they will be adult wasps, and we'll collect them over the next few days. This gives you a good look at what the nest looks like inside all the paper that we've removed. These larvae are very active because they're waiting to be fed, and the more active they are, the more the other adult wasps will come and feed them insect protein. Of course, we collected them all and froze all of the adult wasps, except for one or two that are on the nest now. But in general, most of them have already been frozen, the adult wasps. So there's no one to feed these larvae. Here's all the paper from this nest. We usually go through this and look for live wasps, any that we missed. Doesn't seem to be any here in this collection. There's a few larvae down there in the bottom. it fell out of the nest, but in general, we don't see any of the live adult wasps. It's good paper though. We'll probably save this paper as specimens paper. So we'll add this comb to the vespiary here where we're incubating several different nests now. Here's the newest one that we just brought in. And this one right here is a southern yellowjacket nest. It's an underground nest we pulled out a couple days back, and they're getting busy in there. Pupating, they'll be ready for a collection in a few days when a few more have hatched out. And on this nest, this is a previous Baldfaced Hornet nest. We just did a collection on this yesterday. So there's more hatching out now, as you can see here around the nest. There's a few, but there's still quite a bit left to hatch out on this nest. So we'll collect this one again in a few days when there's more of them born. But there's always several here to work with. And that's why we keep these nests for incubation. Because for venom immunotherapy purposes, you can collect many, many more adult wasps if you simply incubate the nests for a few days to a couple of weeks. And you can collect several times on each of these nests and get a lot more wasps for venom immunotherapy purposes.